Hey everybody, welcome to episode 65. Today's episode I'm going to talk more about bass guitar. And specifically I'm going to go through a couple of things I found online. I was just interested in responding to. I kind of looked through them a little bit first. There's an article on Rolling Stone. It says the 50 greatest bass players of all time, and I'm curious. I mean, I know I've looked through the list, but I was curious to see who was on there and where they fall. I also got to kind of correlate that with the Bass Player magazines. I think they have 100 best. We won't look at all of them, but we'll look at like the top 10, top 20, top bass players of all time. And I want to see where my favorite bass players fall on those lists, because I've got some pretty influential bass players that basically kind of dictated my whole interest in the instrument, and you probably know who a couple of them are, but we'll go into them, and I'm going to show you a couple other interesting things just while we're on the topic that relate to it, as far as live concerts and stuff like that. But I guess I give you my background a little bit in the bass player, my bass video that I did. But I've played bass since 1990, 1989, 1990, right around there. Whatever, my junior year in high school. Yeah, I think it was, junior year in high school. Yeah, I kind of dabbled with the drums. I dabbled with keyboard. I dabbled with, I eventually did more dabbling with the guitar later on, but I think once I locked in on the bass, and I kind of, like I said, the drums was just, it wasn't that it was super difficult for me, it was just very difficult to play, meaning, we lived in a trailer, and it was loud, and, it took up my whole bedroom, I had no real space, and, it wasn't working, and, I'm surprised my mom put up with it. It's kind of weird. But, yeah, and then I moved that drum set to a garage that my dad was renting a house when he moved back into Rochester, and I played it in there a little bit, but I was still, even though it was in a garage, it was kind of like in an back alley of this house, downtown Rochester. I still felt kind of awkward banging away, and I was taking lessons at the drum shop, which was a place, ironically, it was right... If Ruther Junior High School, it was like if you went down the one parking lot to the side, there was a little strip mall there on the corner on Auburn Road, and it was right there in the back on the side called the Drum Shop. And I can't remember what the guy's name is who owned it, but he's a real nice guy. There's a couple of guys, one other guy worked there too, and they used to have like these drum clinics, and used to have people come in and do this drum, these drum nights, like this jam night where all the students would all get together and jam on this drum set, and they'd have a bass player and a guitar player come in, and they just jam a bunch of stuff. And it was fun. It was nice playing in front of people, especially like your peers, all ages. There was little kids younger than me. There was, adults playing, and I was, at that time, I think I was a senior in high school, or I would know it was in between junior and senior year, because I started playing the bass I remember I borrowed that bass from my buddy. I think I borrowed that in 10th grade, so I probably started playing in 88, 89, right around there. I know it's kind of the area. And then I gave the one bass back, and then I started playing the drums, and then I gave up on the drums, sold the drums, borrowed the other bass, and then eventually, boom, I got my first bass. So, kind of tell you that story. It's kind of where this all falls into this little scheme of things here. But before that, let's do this real quick, because guess what came? I haven't even opened it yet. I mean, it literally came about an hour ago, because it was sent through a United States Postal Service, usually the time the mail gets here, late afternoon. So, let's open this up. I was talking about this, remember, if you can remember what this is, if you paid attention. It's a test. You had to pay attention. Man. Make it not hard. It's a small package, but I hope it's packed in there well. I hope it's not cracked either. I also hope I don't crack it pulling out of here. I guess I could cut this, but I thought this was just going to pull off, but it's a little more difficult than that. Wow, it's not even in, I don't even think it's in shrink wrap, and they got tape on it. I'm going to try to, I don't want to slip it out of there and kill the sleeve. Oh no, it does have shrink wrap on it. Okay, there it is. There she blows. There is the 7-inch single on vinyl for 45 of 7 inches of Satanic Panic. So, like I said, I knew this wasn't going to be, I couldn't do a whole episode on just this one album, so that's what I'm kind of incorporating into this longer piece on bass, on my favorite bass players. He's not my favorite one of my favorite bass players yet, but I do like the bass player that's currently with Ghost. I think, I like his bass lines and stuff on those newer songs, so that's kind of neat to know. This has got the, I think it's their #1 hit, the Mariana Cross, and then which is side B, oddly enough. Their first side is Kiss the Go-Goat, so that's kind of weird. Remember, I have that big tapestry of that, so whoo, I got the single for that. So I'm going to hold off on opening this, and I'll probably open it, but it's a purple disc. You've probably seen it if you've looked at this online. The disc's purple, but I'm going to hold off on it for the moment just because I want to wait till I get some sleeves, because once this is opened, well, I'll just open it. I'm just thinking, like, I guess I'm being a little too weird. It was just, this was so hard to find, so that's why I'm kind of weird about it. Man, everything's fighting me today. But yeah, I was a little weird on it. I didn't want to, keep it in as good a condition as possible. Not that I want to scalp it or sell it, but I want to, it's hard to get. Well, I'll take it back. It isn't hard to get. I thought it was hard to get. It's not really that hard to get. You just go on, and they still have them available. Just go on Ghost's website and click on the music tab, and then you can see it's totally available. Open through the top. So there's the disc. It's weird. Normally you need a 45 dealio, to put on here, but they've been putting these, like the regular LP hole in it, which also makes me wonder. No, it says 45. What's to say? It has to be 45 because you got to set your turntable player to 45. At least mine you do, to play it. So again, I want to be kind of careful with it just because I don't have any sleeves that fit it. I guess maybe I can slip it in a comic book box or bag, maybe. I don't know. But I just want to, keep it in good condition until I get the proper sleeves for it. Because I don't have any. This is really the only. I've got a Cheap Trick, the Flame single that I found at my mom's house in the basement that I had back when it came out, and so I don't really have that many singles. Although, and I guess I should scratch it off my list now that I'm thinking about it. This show you just how goofy I am. So I printed out the discography from Wikipedia for Ghost, and I'm just every time I get an album, I end up highlighting it off. I think I already. It's funny. This is noted as an EP, and it's kind of weird. It's a single. It's not an EP, but EPs are usually 4 or 5 songs. But maybe they consider it an EP. Oh, here we go. Also, I was going to order, and I could probably get this more when I talk about that album, but I was going to order today, as I said, every Friday I'm going to order an album and a t-shirt. And I was going to get, what do you call it? The first album, Opus Eponymous. But it was, of course, it's funny. It's like it was on pre-order all this time, and it's just like, what? I'm not going to pre-order it. I'll just wait till the day it comes out, which is today. I said, I get up early in the morning for work, so I'm going to just, see. I'm sure it's not going to sell out the first day. And even last night, it was still up for pre-order. I'm like, well, should I just pre-order? Because I'm going to order it tomorrow morning anyways. And then I didn't. And then I woke up this morning about 7 o'clock, and first thing I did is grab my tablet, pulled it over, pulled up Amazon, sold out. And they're already, the scalpers got it on there for twice as much. So it's just like, really? So that was the record I was planning on getting, so I didn't get that one today. Instead, I got, is it pronounced Prequel? I just call it Prequel or Prequel. Their 4th studio album. I ordered that one instead, and I got the t-shirt too to match. So that one's coming, and it's funny because it said it was the price of a vinyl, but then it says 7 inches, kind of like this. I'm like, what? And then I looked at, and then it says LP. I'm like, how could it be an LP in 7 inches? And then I looked a little closer, and I read the little description. It says that it comes with a 7-inch promotional of additional songs, a 7-inch single in it, with like a gold whatever or something like that. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. So I'm gonna get a. So when that comes and I do the video on that, I'll what do you call it? I'll show you guys that, and that'll be kind of neat. I'm interested to see how it looks or what it looks like. And I also do like that this is not a paper sleeve. This is a cardboard sleeve. It's nice. You know, a paper sleeve would, you know, get dinged up after a while. But the cardboard sleeve's nice. Love the artwork. Like I said, I got the tapestry right over. Takes up pretty much my whole 4 foot by 4 foot above my computer here. But like I said, we'll get more into that. The album's supposed to come tomorrow. It's like for 1-day shipping. I'm going to make some videos over the weekend so I have some cachet for next week, because I'm recording this on Friday when I need to post it. I'm going to post it as soon as I'm done. Of course, I'm telling you that again. It's just pointless because you already know this. But what do you call it? My what do you call it? I keep saying what do you call it? What do you call it? Sorry, I lost my train of thought. The single? No. Oh yeah, the shirt. The shirt doesn't come till Monday. I want to wear the shirt in the video just because I want to be that guy. I want to be that schmuck. So I'll probably wait and do the video on the album when I get the shirt, probably Monday. You know, it'll probably means it'll probably be up on Wednesday or whatever. And I noticed I'm getting a lot of buzz on the one I did for Imperia. So hopefully this, you know, I said I really like this band, and I really like talking about it. I'm also get into. I found some videos and people who are, you know, bashing Ghost, and some of them have some pretty legitimate gripes, and I agree with. But overall, you know, most of it, like anything, always revolves around like the personalities and the people in the band. And but I'll get into this more because I've got some things to say on that, good and bad, when I go over that album. But let's start talking about bass players. So, like I said, I know 2 of them right off the bat. Obviously, I should know them. My most influential bass players. And here's the thing that's weird, is we're going to go through some of these lists and look at some of the best players of all time. And now, it's interesting that 2 of my favorite bass, well, yeah, 2 of my favorite bass players, I don't play anything like them. Now, if I'm playing their music, sometimes I sort of emulate their stuff, their sound, but I usually don't. I usually pick my own sound, which, you know, I'm using different equipment than they are, different guitars than they are. I have a different technique and attack, and everything that I do is different from those 2 favorite bass players. So you would think, you know, a lot of people are like, you know, when they get really into a bit, like they want to be Eddie Van Halen, they got to have an Eddie Van Halen guitar, they've got to have his signature amplifiers, you know, or if everybody wants to be whoever, they've got to have their signature model of the guitar that they have, like a replica of the same guitar that they use, and then they've got to have all the same effects pedal boards, and they got to, you know, they got to play every single song that they play, including all their solos. I find that to be a bit excessive. And that seems to be, it's more borderline on obsessive compulsive. Well, I've got some OCD, but I'm saying that's like creepy level. And it comes off kind of dumb. It doesn't make them necessarily like a poser, but it makes them more like they're trying way too hard. A try-hard. If you play Fortnite, they're a try-hard. Those are try-hards. And I find it's okay to have influences. It's okay for those influences to, you know, affect you or inspire you and make you do things. But really, at the end of the day, and I say the same thing with art. You know, people ask me about art, you know, art stuff all the time, and you know, not on this channel, but they do. Anyways, and I try to tell everybody, just have your own style. Do what you like to do. You know, if you like a certain technique, you do it. If you like a certain pen or a certain guitar, certain effects pedal, you know, a certain paper, whatever you like. I mean, look, you can look, it's no, I mean, I look all the time, see what everybody else's bass rigs look like, or, you know, what other kind of, tools people use. But really, at the end of the day, it comes down to a few things. Can I afford their stuff? If they're professionals, probably not. So I'm going to go with whatever I can afford. And maybe I don't like that guitar. You know, maybe I just don't like the look of it. Maybe it plays great. Maybe it sounds amazing, because that's what created their sound. But I just don't like it for some reason. You know, maybe I like a model that's totally different from what they would be using. So, again, it's okay to have influences. It's okay to, you know, worship these music gods. However, be yourself. Pick your own voice. Pick your own style. Just explore what you want to do. I mean, if you let's say you want the Eddie Van Halen guitars, you buy the Eddie Van Halen guitar because it's a gift, or maybe you just got it as a deal or whatever. Or maybe you're just rich. You know, that's fine. But then, you know, you don't have to have every pedal he has and exactly mimic his sound, because at the end of the day, you're not doing anything original. You're just copying somebody to a T. Now, again, you know, artists, it's better to... You are always going to copy somebody, you know, and I can't remember good artists, something, you know, or some great artists steal, whatever. But that's more like that's more of an abstraction. It's more of like a relative kind of statement, right? What they're really meaning is that you're taking bits and pieces of people, and you're incorporating into your own stuff, right? To hopefully come up with something original on your own. You know, even if you're a comic book artist and you're drawing Batman or Batgirl or whatever, somebody else's character, make them their own. Make them your own. Don't, you know? I mean, I drawn She-Hulk a lot, right? She's probably one of my most, you know, her and Wonder Woman, and I love John Byrne's She-Hulk. That's what made me like her in the first place. You watch my She-Hulk video, you'll see on that. But I try not to draw exactly like him, because when I try to draw exactly like him, it comes off a little weird, and it comes off cringe, I find. And I feel like I'm being a tryhard. So I try to fall back, and I go back and go, okay, let's do my own thing with this character. I'll kind of look at what he does, but I'm going to do my own thing. So it's kind of what I've been doing. I guess if you're going to take anything away from this video, it's be original. Don't be afraid to borrow aspects from the people you really like. But at the end of the day, be original and try to experiment and come up with your own thing. Yeah, so, all right, let's go. Let's jump into this list. So I got me pull up. Okay, I got it there. Let's hope I got this set. Doesn't reset itself. No, there we go. Okay, so we've got. So this is an article in Rolling Stone magazine. I'm not a huge Rolling Stone person, you know, but it's pretty much an industry standard, you know. I think that it's, you know, Rolling Stone is, you know, I read it once in a while, but I take everything with a grain of salt, and they're not the end-all, be-all of the universe. People think Rolling Stone is like, you know, the you know, music editorial gods or whatever. They're sadly mistaken. It's not, they're not that great. But I'm not saying that I don't, you know, sometimes agree with them. A lot of times I disagree with them. But let's just go through this list and see. Like I said, I kind of cursory scanned through it, but I didn't go into super big detail. This will also show you my knowledge of bass players, as far as like if I don't know somebody, I'm going to tell you I don't know who this person is. I've never heard of them, or maybe I've heard the name, don't know what band they're in, don't know who they've played for, don't even, you know much about them. So I'm going to be honest, and you'll see the extent of my bass player knowledge. So let's go through here. Let's see. Let's start off with. I'm not going to read the article, obviously. I might read little snippets here and there in different people just to kind of find out who people are. Let's start with number 50. This guy, Thundercat. No clue who he is. I see hip-hop, jazz, He's defined as the vanguard of hip hop, jazz, R&B, electronica. Never heard of him. I'm just kind of scanning through to see if there's any bands or musicians that he's played with I've heard of Suicidal Tendencies. Now, the bassist grew up in a musical family and landed a gig early on with thrash punk veterans Suicidal Tendencies. Okay, so he's from Suicidal Tendencies? I just know that, I constantly use the line, don't call it a comeback because no one's coming back. Or insane in the membrane, got no brain. You always say those things. But that's about my extent of my knowledge of Suicidal Tendencies, so I didn't know who this guy was. I know who Duff is, obviously from Guns N' Roses, and then of course he was in Velvet Revolver. I saw him. I never saw Guns N' Roses live during their heyday, but I did see Velvet Revolver with the guy from Stone Temple Pilots who's passed away. I can't remember his Scott Weiland. Is that what his name was? Scott Weiland, I think, or Chris Weiland. Scott Weiland. And Slash and Duff were, the bass player, guitar player in that band, and I saw them at the State Theater downtown Detroit with my buddy, and that was pretty amazing. I was like, wow, I finally got to see Slash play live, and Duff was there, and I thought that it was a good show. I mean, they weren't I bought the album, I think, at the time just because I thought it was kind of neat, but I like Duff's. He plays the pick. I like that. He also, he plays, he doesn't always just play Fender, jazz basses and stuff. I've seen him play all kinds of stuff. Can't remember what that. I think it was a Jaguar, not a Jaguar. I can't remember the bass he played on. You see him live, like on the music videos and stuff. For when Appetite for Destruction came out, I know it was a white bass. I can't remember. It was like more square. It wasn't a Fender, I don't believe. I want to say it was a signature guitar. That reminds me of rings a bell. Signature guitars. But anyways, or maybe it was an Alembic. I don't know. I can't remember. But yeah, I mean, I like Duff. Does he influence my playing? Well, I mean, a little bit. I like playing with a pick. He was a guitar player and a drummer too, and before it, and he kind of took on bass. A lot of people, if you read these things, people take on basses in bands as a necessity, meaning the old bass player took off, or nobody wanted to play bass, and somebody got elected to play bass, or somebody stepped up, because bass playing is not you're not Eddie Van Halen. You're not right out there in the forefront. You're not the one that all the girls are screaming about most of the time, unless you're like Sid Vicious or something like that, or Paul McCartney, or Sting. But most of they're not screaming because they're great bass players. They're screaming because they're Sting, or they're Paul McCartney. They're not. Most the girls could care less what instrument they play. And most people, I'm going to say just girls in general, most people don't really care. And that's the problem. And we'll go see a few of them here. A lot of them are their bass playing is very underrated because they're so well known for being either the lead singer or being the songwriter or whatever. Kim Deal from the Pixies. I know who she is. I know who the Pixies are. The only song that comes to my head is This Monkey's Gone to Heaven. And the only reason that song rings a bell is because I remember sitting at the friend from Ruther, sitting at his drafting table in his bedroom back in high school, and he was playing This Monkey's Gone to Heaven, the cassette tape. And for some reason, I just got through listening to Put Some Madness to the Method by Blue Oyster Cult. And I'm like going, why does this song sound, and I think the chords are the same. The song sounds the exact same as This Monkey's Gone to Heaven, and then it's Put Some Madness to the Method. That's the extent of my Pixies knowledge. And I know they're a big band. I know they're a big indie band. A lot of, people who love the indie scene back in that time period, especially the 90s. They were really into the Pixies. So I know who she is. I know she's the bass player. That's about as much as I know. I thought didn't she play with somebody else? I might be getting her mixed up with somebody else. It says Husker Du, but I think those are her influences. Or something. I'm not going to really read it. Leland Sklar or Skyler, or however you say his name. This guy's been around forever. You probably, if you watch MTV videos in the 80s, you've seen this dude at one point. He's a session musician. He's played with everybody. Probably his most notable, let's see what it says here. Yeah, is Phil Collins. So he's pretty much the most notable for when Phil Collins left Genesis and did like No Jacket Required and did the his solo career. He was this bass player. I mean, it's pretty hard to miss him. He's got that really long hair and really long beard. I mean, I guess mine starting to get there too, but it's not that crazy. Yeah, and I know he's played. I want to say he's played with. I'm trying to think of. I know they've seen the drummer. Not John Cougar Mellencamp. Did he play with John Cougar Mellencamp? I've seen him in other things besides Phil Collins. I'm just looking here. I see Jackson Browne, Carole King, James Taylor. They just go. They list a whole bunch of his credits here. But the Phil Collins one's the one I know him from the most, probably. Let's see, number 46, Peter Hook. Name sounds familiar. Is that the? I was gonna say. Well, same band pretty much. What's the name? New Order. What's the other band? Joy Division. Is it the Joy Division guy? She's Lost Control. Yes, Joy Division. Okay, Joy Division right here. Yeah. So I know the name and I know he was the bass player because I looked. I was trying to play a couple of songs from Joy Division and I just happened to look and I saw the name. So I don't know much else about him besides that. Esperanza Spalding. Who has she played with? Looks like a newer photograph. Of course, that could be wrong, but so she looks younger. Master Improviser Wayne Shore. I don't know who any of these people are. R&B and gnarly prog rock. Her virtuosic and culminantly playing blah 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 blah. I don't know who she is, and I don't know what she's played in. Like I said, there's certain musical worlds that I just have never gotten into. Who's this guy? Number 44, Joseph Maquella. I'll probably butcher most of these names. Johannesburg version Mota. I don't know who that is either. They're probably world famous, and I don't know who they are. Oh, wait a minute. He inspired players like, again, I can't pronounce the name, Bakithi Kumalo, who anchored Paul Simon's Graceland. I know the Paul Simon's Graceland album, and I remember seeing the bass, because he was on Saturday Night Live. I remember he was playing a fretless bass. So, I guess, but this guy inspired him. That's not who this is. So, again, I don't know who this guy is. Mike Watt. He looks like... Is it like... Don't know who this is either. Founded the Minuteman, and I don't know anything about this. It's 70s. Check out that. I should read these a little closer, but now of course I know him. I would probably put him in. He's definitely my top 10. Tony Levin, of course. Again, I don't play anything like Tony. Again, I like him. I think he's great. I don't play anything like him. He also plays a Chapman stick, if you know what that. I always wanted one of those, but they're really expensive, and probably I'll never get one. But I kind of wanted one for a while, just because I at least wanted to try one. But he plays a Chapman stick too, which is just crazy. I don't know how many. It was a 10-string. It's like a 10-string bass. It's got like guitar strings on it and bass strings, and it's all tapping. You tap on it, and you kind of hold it like he's holding it there with that strap. But he also plays, like I think he plays Ernie Ball Music Man, like the Stingray style. And but yeah, obviously he played with King Crimson for a while, and he also played. I mean, he was the bass player for Anderson, Buford, Wakeman, and Howe. And I think he was. Pretty sure he was. I remember seeing a concert with him. Maybe he was just a session musician for it. thought he played the bass on that. I could be wrong on that. But he's also Gabriel. He's always been Gabriel. Gabriel's used him, you know, quite extensively after Genesis when Gabriel did his solo career. And of course, more notably, the So album with Sledgehammer, Big Time, Red Rain. He has a very, especially that album, he has a very, very highly compressed bass sound down there. And it has a really cool sound to it. And it's very distinct. I mean, he's got to have his, it's like he must have compressors on top of compressors. The sound is so compacted, but when he slides, especially he uses like a fretless version and slides on it, it makes such a cool sound. So yeah. Let's see, who's this guy? George Porter Jr. I've heard the name. Oh, sorry, getting the sleepies again. No idea what he's played in. I've heard the name though. I might even be getting it mixed up with somebody else too. Say Elvis? No, it's Bill Black. Elvis's bass player, playing an upright there, stand up, double bass. I don't really know who he is. I mean, who Elvis is. I assumed he has a band, and I know the band. You know, guy played a stand up, but I couldn't tell you what his name was. That looks like Kim Gordon, right from the, not Pixies, Sonic Youth. Yep. The girl from Sonic Youth. I'm not a big Sonic Youth fan. My one buddy, he really loves the Pixies and he really likes Sonic Youth. And I went to see Sonic Youth with him at the Pine Canab one summer, you know, back in the 2000s. And I'm just not a big fan of that sound, you know. But yeah, so that's where she's from. Oh, she's playing an SG bass. It's pretty cool. It's a short scale bass, which is I remember I'm in the market for a short scale bass. I thought that was Joe Satriani for a minute. Pino Palladino. It's played with Don Henley, Jeff Beck, B.B. King. Yeah, I don't know who it is. He's a session musician, most likely. Yeah. Oh, John McVie from Fleetwood Mac, right? Fleetwood Mac. Because it's what's her face? His wife it's his wife, right? Not sister. The girl who just died recently. What's her name? Stephanie McVie? Stacy McVie? I can't remember her name either. It probably says here. Yeah, so I know the Fleetwood Mac. So everybody knows Rumor. It's the most popular. It's one of the most popular albums of all time. But he's the bass player on that one. There's Les Claypool. Now it's funny with Les Claypool. I like him a lot, and I loved Primus. You know, when they hit right around that time too, in the early '90s, and at least that's, you know, like the Sailing the Seas of Cheese and Jerry's a Race Car Driver. I loved all that. I was so impressed by his playing, and just I'd never seen anything like that before, that I was totally blown away. However, that said, I don't play anything like him. Well, you know, I'm not that good for one thing. But I don't really necessarily like his bass playing. I just think he's cool and he's got a cool sound, and you know, and it's more just fun to watch. And I know he's a huge Rush guy. Obviously, you'll watch any, you know, he does the South Park, you know, going down South Park, you know, that thing. But I'm not a big fan of this. I don't like slapping bass, and so he's got a lot of slapping and popping and doing all that stuff. I'm just not a fan of that sound. As far as me personally, when it comes to bass playing, I love listening to it. I just don't like to play like that. So I would probably still put him in probably my top 10. However, I wouldn't necessarily, you know, he's influenced me, you know. Yeah, so there's Les Claypool, Louis Johnson. Oh, Michael Jackson? Michael Jackson's Billie Jean. So this is the guy that played with Michael Jackson? Okay. I know the songs. I couldn't tell you the guy, though. I mean, I might have seen him like in a video or something, or, you know, or concert footage, but I don't know anything about him outside of the fact that I just read that he's his shuffling bass line that shapes and drives Michael Jackson's Billie Jean. Probably merit blah 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 blah. Yeah. Richard Davis or Rick Davis, is he a progressive jazz guy? This is funny. I like the bass guitar, but, and this probably goes into why I don't like a lot of like slap, and I don't like a lot of like certain type of bass, but I don't really care for jazz. I'm not a jazz person. Like, it bores me to tears. I mean, I've seen stuff that's impressive, you know, and it's just, oh, it's impressive. You know, I'm just like a lot of things. I mean, you know, it's like, you know, again, I'm not trying to be a contrarian or anything, but certain things which everybody, you know, is objectively says is like great, right? Sometimes I look at that stuff, or I listen to that stuff, or whatever, taste that stuff, and I'm like, it doesn't do anything for me. I'm bored. You know, I'd rather see something else. So jazz is one of those things. So I think this is a big jazz guy. There's Lemmy. Question: who would win in a fight, Lemmy or God? Trick question. Lemmy is God. That's from Airheads. Yeah, the movie Airheads. He's a tough one to articulate about him. He's like Les Claypool. He plays the pick. Actually, him playing with the pick, actually, like Jason Newsted from Metallica, he didn't want to play with the pick because he thought it was lame until he saw it, you know, noticed, oh, Lemmy plays with the pick. Lemmy's cool, so therefore playing with the pick is cool now. I think Duff McKagan said something about that in his thing too. He does play the pick. He does play a lot of distortion on his bass. He uses a Rickenbacker, which again, Rickenbacker is for guitar player bass players, and you know, it's got such a high trebly sound, a very high end to it, not a lot of low end, and he cranks up the distortion on it too, which I find to be kind of retarded. I mean, a lot of distortion on the bass just sounds dumb. It just sounds like, the kid, and I was this kid at one point. It sounds like the kid who's like, I've got a guitar amplifier here that has distortion on it. My friend let me borrow it. He said, don't put your bass through it because it ruins it. So I, of course, want to put my bass through it, and hopefully it doesn't ruin it. You know, and then you crank the distortion up on it, and you're like, oh, it sounds so cool. It's so, you know, it's so aggressive sounding, and blah, blah, blah. And I liked that when I was, you know, in high school or whatever, you know, when I was young. I wanted to be very aggressive and be very, you know, in people's face, and right? It's like, oh, I can play these bass licks because I can't play them on guitar, but I can play them on the bass and crank up the distortion. That sounds so cool. Nowadays, you know, my age now, and I look back and I hear that sound, or if I crank up the distortion, I put like the Big Muff pedal emulated on the Zoom, and I crank that sucker up on my bass, and I just don't care for it. It just doesn't. I like the bass sound. I like the bass tone, and I like a lot of low end, and that Rickenbackers in general don't have a lot of low end. So there's that. Oh, let's see, I'm burning through time here. There you go, there's Sting. And again, he's definitely in my top, I would say probably top 5. Because I love the Police. And he plays with the pick. Not all the time, because like when he plays the upright, like Walking on the Moon, he'll play with his fingers. But a lot of times you'll see him, he'll be playing with the pick. And he also plays a Spectre. He plays a white Spectre, at least he did for a while. And it, you know, was a better Spectre than the one I have, but you know, I just thought that was kind of cool, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted a Spectre, was because that Synchronicity concert when he was playing that white Spectre, you know, I didn't really want a white one, but I wanted a Spectre just because it was so cool looking, and you know, that kind of, I don't know if I mentioned this in some of my other videos, but I said I didn't know what a bass guitar was until probably honestly, 1985, 1984, maybe not even then. The thing is, like, he's probably not on this list, but probably my first person who is my first bass god was Gene Simmons. Like I said, I went from Star Wars in 1978. I was all about Star Wars that summer and that year. And then, like I said, once it was out of the theaters and once, I had the action figures, I kind of lost interest in it. And the next thing it pulled along in 1979 for me was Kiss. And I was all about Kiss. I was obsessed with Kiss. Like I said, ask the kid from kindergarten who I was with. I was obsessed with Kiss. I liked Ace Frehley better just because he looked cool as Space Ace. But I didn't know that Gene Simmons was playing a bass. I didn't know what a bass guitar was. I just saw him with a guitar, and it looked a little different than Ace's guitar or Paul's guitar, but I just thought it was just a different kind of guitar, like, oh, that's that kind of guitar. I didn't even know what a Les Paul was back then, and Ace playing with his Les Paul. So I knew he played guitar. I just assumed he played guitar, and it's like, oh, I really like, that. So I would say probably my first real bass player that I was liked, and I didn't know it was a bass, was Gene Simmons. And then I would say fast forward to, remember I saw 1981. I went to the, it was 1981. Went to the when Rush played at not Pine Knob, Meadowbrook for the Exit Stage Left tour. My parents and the neighbors took me, and I don't even know if they even knew who Rush was at the time. I mean, Moving Pictures is huge, so they just probably said, oh, it's the band's got that big album out. And I went there, and I remember being at the concert. I remember looking at the stage. We were on the lawn, up on the lawn, and I remember looking down there, and it's also the stage I walked across for graduation in high school, and walked across on that stage graduation of college too, because I graduated from OU. But anyways, looking down at that, yeah, I'm sure people were talking Geddy Lee bass god all around me, but I didn't know that's what it was. And again, 83, seeing Synchronicity concert, I knew it was a guitar. I didn't know what a bass was. I always thought, it's like, well, that looks cool. That's why I've always liked like the modern style basses, like the Spectre I've got, or like an Ibanez. I know a lot of people love the vintage look and they love the P basses and stuff, but I personally like the more modern looking, because that's a lot of times what I'd see people with, and it's just like, especially like the dark, even though I like a maple neck, I like the dark neck just because all I see was like this all black or all white thing with these strings, these big strings, and again, I didn't know that were bass strings. So, like I said, Nicky Six, I'm sure he's not on the list either. I was big, Motley Crue first came out, I thought Nicky Six was cool because they had the whole Kiss thing going on. And he played the bass, and he had that big Firebird bass, and I just thought it was just a guitar. Like I said, I probably didn't realize what a bass guitar was until maybe 84, 85, right around there. And I don't even know how it came about, which, wasn't that far before I started playing a bass guitar. Okay, let's go on here. So well, just Sting. So obviously Sting's in my top 5. I love, and like I said, I think he's a very underrated bass player. I think, I'm not a huge fan of the reggae style-ish stuff that he plays, and I don't usually play like that. Like I don't do a lot of I do some string muting, but I don't do what he does. And even if I'm playing one of their songs, I play it my own way. I don't play it the way Sting plays it. Again, that's the thing. When it comes, even if you're playing other people's music, right? Play it your way. Play however you want to play. If you want to play it, transpose it to somewhere different. Transpose it to somewhere different. If you want to play an E, the octave of an E up on the 7th fret, on the A string, and not an open E, just because you think it sounds more upbeat, or you think it has a different sound to it, or vice versa. You want to play that low E, or if you're tuning down low D, whatever, play it however you want to play it. You're probably never going to play this with that band ever in your life. So you might as well just play it however you want to play it. If you're going to go into a band and they're real sticklers on it, well then I guess, you know, run to that situation when you come to it. But I think for just starting out, or even if you're just a hobbyist, you know, and not super concerned about playing live, like I said, I'm just a glorified hobbyist. I think I'm glorified, but just a hobbyist at this point. I figure out the songs however I want to play them, and I play them that way. And it's probably wrong, but who cares? Yeah, Bernard Edwards. I just saw jazz again, so of course I'm like, oh, La Freak, La Freak. I still don't know who that is. Isn't that Crystal Gale? Or it's the, oh wow, it's John Byrne or Mr. Dodson, my art teacher. A country band, yeah, Bob Moore, yeah. So if it's, I think that's Crystal Gale. I'm pretty sure because those Crystal, it looks like Crystal Gale's eyes. I see, yeah, it is because her hair is really long. I think her hair goes to her ankles. But yeah, Bob Moore is her bass player. Sure. Nashville people. I don't know Nashville people. You know. Tina Weymouth. That's the girl from Talking Heads, isn't it? Yeah, Psycho Killer, Talking Heads. Talking Heads, yeah. Again, I know who she is. I think she plays the pick, too. I don't know what kind of bass that is. I know who she is. I've seen her play. I've listened to the music, blah, blah, blah. But that's about my extent of the knowledge about her. So at least I knew who she was. Aston Family Man Barrett. I'm going to just go out on a limb and say R&B. Architect of Reggae. Oh, he's got like the reggae hat on, so maybe, is he like Bob Marley? Bob Marley and the Wailers. There we go. Duh. Put the connections together. Yeah, Bob Marley and the Wailers. Again, I like Bob. Well, I got it. There's a very small pocket of time. This is in 9th grade. I want to say right around Halloween. So first semester of 9th grade. I don't know where this came from. I don't know why, but I got into Bob Marley and the Wailers for a hot minute, like a month or two, and I really got into them, really into them, and then just suddenly got out of them. I don't know why. Just for some reason, I know there's this other kid that had a bunch of music, and I went over and asked him. I remember going to Full Moon Records and buying on cassette. I think I bought the Legends, or actually I just bought one of their albums. Actually, I think it was a live album, and I know it had like No Woman, No Cry on it and stuff like that, or Could You Be Loved. Yeah, I remember that pretty vividly. And then I kept that tape for a little while. But I didn't know who the bass player was. I didn't know who the band was. I just knew who Bob Marley was. David Hood. Guy from the 70s, funk bass player, probably slaps. I don't know. Again, some of these people don't even register with me. An old guy who plays a stand-up bass, who is it? Israel Kakawa Lopez. I'm assuming he's a Cuban guy. Cuban, yeah. Oh, he's just a fusion player in general. Fusion. Yeah, it's not my cup of tea. There's Cliff Burton. When I first discovered Metallica, like I said, I don't know if I've talked about this, but I had a buddy from high school who also was at at North Hill, and I didn't see him again until I went to Ruther. He lived in the trailer park with me, and he came over one day, and he had these tapes, and he says, "Hey, you got to listen to this band. This band's awesome. It's called Metallica," and this would have been 1987, and I'm pretty sure Master of Puppets was out, or Master of Puppets. I know Injustice for All wasn't out yet. But anyways, I remember listening to the tapes with him. I remember listening. I really liked Creeping Death. I really liked Ride the Lightning album that he had. And I'm not just saying that because I don't want to be an NPC. I was watching this other guy. He's talking about He's like, people who think the best Metallica album is Ride Lightning are people that are so don't want to sound like an NPC and say Master of Puppets that you just say Ride the Lightning. That's not true with me. Like I said, he brought over Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, and Master of Puppets, and then he let me borrow those 3 albums, and I had them for like a couple of weeks, and I really did a deep dive listening to them, listened to them a lot, and I gotta say, out of the 3 albums, because I really like Creeping Death, that was my favorite song, and that was on Ride the Lightning. So I'm not just trying to avoid being an NPC and say Master of Puppets. My favorite album of Metallica is Ride the Lightning. However, that said, I'm not really a big Metallica fan. I just don't, something about them, I don't know if it's the douchey McDouchery of Douche McDouche, whatever his name is, Lars McDouche, Lars Ulrich. I don't like him. I'm not really a big fan of James Hetfield either. I think he kind of comes off kind of douchey. I'm not a huge fan of Kirk Hammett's guitar playing. I think the only guy I liked in the band was Cliff Burton. I just thought he did that crazy distortion and this anesthesia pulling teeth solo. The other thing was, there's another kid in the trailer park. I had the Cliff 'Em All videotape on VHS, and he let me borrow that, and I watched that like probably 100 times over a weekend, and watched Cliff Burton doing Cliff Burton's thing and stuff like that. I like the big black bass that he had. I think it's an Alembic or a Yamaha. I can't remember kind of bass that he has. He also plays a Rickenbacker. Again, he plays like a guitar player. He's a guitar player / bass player. He does use his fingers, though. He doesn't use a pick. But, I don't know. I mean, the guy's passed away. He died, unfortunately, and tragically. But, I mean, that's the other thing is I think that because I like those albums and stuff, I think that he had all the talent in the band. And, when he went, the band kind of went downhill. So, that's my take on Metallica and Cliff Burton. Like I said, I mean, he's considered a bass god. It's like, sure, I guess. Okay, so probably my favorite, of course my favorite bass players are, I don't know who's number 1, so number 1 or number 2 in either order, depends on what mood I'm in, is Geddy Lee and Chris Squire. Chris Squire from Yes, Geddy Lee from Rush. Again, as I said, I don't play anything like Geddy Lee. Even when I try to play some Rush songs, which are difficult for me, I can play a couple of them. I don't play them like Geddy Lee plays them. I play them how I play them. And, but I mean, he's probably the biggest influence on me as far as bass playing. I kind of speed things up, I getting to my favorite people, and I have to kind of speed things up here. Bill Wyman from, what's Bill Wyman from? I was going to say the Rolling Stones, but this says Total Rolling Stone magazine. He's famous. I can't tell you what he's from. It's not ringing a bell at the moment. Heard the name. So this is my bass knowledge. Flea, I'm not a big fan of Flea. I don't like that style of playing. He's a character, all right. And I know when I first started playing bass, that one friend who also died tragically, not too far out of high school, who played the bass. The guy played the Factor bass. He was big. He was all about this guy, and you should play like Flea. It's just like, I don't want to play like Flea. He's like, oh, but that's how playing like that's cool. I'm like, is it? I guess it is. It's like, why? I just want to be me. I don't want to have to try to be somebody else. So yeah, Flea. I mean, I like the Chili Peppers. I'm not a huge Chili Peppers fan. I've gone in and out of liking them, where sometimes I just get sick of them. But I've seen him in concert a couple of times, so it is what it is. He's not in my top 10. Geezer Butler, as I noticed here, if I pick a top 10, I bet you only like 5 of them are on this list. Most of them aren't even on this list. Geezer Butler from Black Sabbath. I love Black Sabbath, and he's pretty much one of the driving members and the reason why it sounds the way it does. I like it. like I said, I'm like a huge, he's probably in my top 10, Geezer Butler. Probably. Or pretty close to it. So I'm going to go through these pretty quick now, because we're getting towards the beginning too. And I said I got that other, all I want to do is look and see where a couple of my favorites fall on the other list for Bass Player Magazine. And I'm not really going to get into Bass Player Magazine, so I might as well close that out. Basically, I'm just going to talk about, this is a magazine, before the internet, we had magazines. Guitar Player, Guitar World, and Bass Player Magazine was, it was a what do you call it, an offshoot of one of those. I don't know if it's Guitar World or Guitar Plus. It says Guitar Player Magazine, although I got it listed on the Guitar World website. Yeah, I used to try to, I didn't get every issue. I would only, because if I went to the bookstore and I saw Bass Player Magazine and I don't know who the heck they're talking about, or just the magazine doesn't seem interesting, I wouldn't buy it. So I only probably own maybe 10, 15 copies of different Bass Player magazines pretty much throughout the 90s. I think it started in 88. Basically, my bass playing career is about as old as this magazine. Let's just say 88, 89 is when I started playing. So yeah, right around the same time. I didn't start getting this magazine until I want to say like 90 or 91 though. So I'm just going to close that out. Let's see, let's just run through these real quick. Rick Danko, I don't know him. Verdon White, heard of him. Couldn't tell you what he's in. Earth, Wind, and Fire, that's what it says. So is that the guy from Earth, Wind, and Fire? Yeah. There he is, Chris Squire. So one of my other favorites, of course, plays with the Rickenbacker. Has a totally different sound. He does play the pick, though. I was actually re-teaching myself some parts from Silent Wings of Freedom last night, and of course Tempest Fugit, probably my two favorites, especially his bass playing on it, and I was playing him my way. I wasn't playing him like he would play, and I'm playing it on a different kind of bass than he does, and I have a different pedal selections in my Zoom that he uses. I mean, he does use compression a lot. He does use chorus. And I've used those too pretty much extensively, but I wasn't trying to emulate his sound. I just wanted to emulate what he was doing. So, yeah. So, there's Chris Squire. Robbie Shakespeare, heard of the name, couldn't tell you what he's from. Charlie Hayden, don't know at all. Donald Duck Dunn, I've heard of him. What's he play with? Otis Redding. Yeah, he's played with a bunch of those people. But I know the name Donald Duck Dunn. It's kind of hard to forget that name, but I don't know much about him. John Paul Jones. Not a huge Led Zeppelin fan. So John Paul Jones, I mean, he's good. I just, not a huge Led Zeppelin fan. Stanley Clarke. I don't know what Stanley Clarke does. I know he's a jazz musician, but he used to be, talking about Bass Player Magazine, it seems like Stanley Clarke was in every issue of Bass Player Magazine. And I remember he was really, got a bunch of Carvin catalogs for Carvin guitars, and he was all about the Carvin bass. So that's really the only thing I know him for. And I know he's like considered, a virtuoso, but I couldn't tell you what he does. He probably plays something that bores me to tears. Willie Dixon, I'm going to go on a limb and say he's a jazz guy. Yeah, like I said, I don't like jazz. Phil Lesh, I don't like the Grateful, I know who he is, I don't like the Grateful Dead. So I'm not really a Phil Lesh guy. Ron Carter. Don't know. Sorry for the pause, but who doesn't know who Paul McCartney's just like Sting. I think very underrated bass player. I mean, I like the Beatles about as casually like everybody else likes the Beatles, but I'm not a huge Beatles fan either. you know, I can appreciate the stuff. Some of the stuff puts me in a good mood. You know, it's very nostalgic for me when I hear a lot of the music. But other than that, I don't own any Beatles albums. Jaco Pastorius, he's also a lot like Stanley Clarke, guys like that. These are these virtuoso, like, you know, insano, you know, bass gods or whatever. And I think he played with. He's kind of a session musician, but he's played with a bunch of people. Pat Metheny, people like that. I mean, he doesn't do anything for me either. I mean, he's virtuoso, but I don't know. Just his music doesn't. What he plays doesn't do anything for me. Larry Graham. Sly and the Family Stone. I know the band, but I mean, I've heard of the band. I've never heard of the bass player. I couldn't tell you much about. He's number 7. Like I said, it shows you my knowledge of bass players. Jack Bruce from Cream. I know that, you know, obviously you're gonna do 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 do. You know, the Sunshine of Your Love. That was one thing I played, so I knew the name Jack Bruce because it would be on the sheet music. Carol Kay. I've heard of her just recently. I didn't know who she was for a while, and then I saw her pop up on some stuff on YouTube. I think she played with the Beach Boys, I think, and stuff like that. Yeah, but outside of that, like I said, I just discovered her not that long ago, so I don't have much to say. Bootsy Collins, I'm not a huge Parliament fan. I love their shtick. It basically, I mean, they're all, you know, it's from the 70s too, and everything was over the top. I love the whole, you know, the Psycho Funkopus or whatever, not Psycho Funkopus, the, you know, the whole UFO thing and the other stage shows, and I like, you know, I remember he was in the video for D-Light's Groovers in the Heart. I mean, I like his shtick, and actually he doesn't play super slappy. He does do some grooves and stuff that are not super slappy. I like Bootsy Collins. Like I said, I don't know any Funk Parliament albums. I've heard some of the Parliament stuff. But, you know, I can't say I'm a huge fan of them. But I know who he is. John Entwistle, of course, from The Who. You know, I'm not... The Who were like... A lot of those bands, I mean, like the Rolling Stones or Led Zeppelin stuff, so they're like quintessential rock bands of all time, classic rock bands, and they're okay. You know, I don't find myself compelled to listen to them that much. Charles Mingus, no clue. I'm assuming jazz. Okay, I know who James Jamerson is as of like the early 2000s. I didn't know who he was until then. And then I watched a documentary on Motown, and then, you know, he was the guy that pretty much, you know, played all the bass on all those Motown records, and session musician, you know, that they would use for almost all of that stuff. And, you know, he was extensively used flat round strings, and he used to put, like, foam and stuff under his guitar to really get rid of the treble. He wanted it like no treble, like just pure bass. I've tried that. I mean, I've turned all my tone knobs all the way down. It's nice because you don't hear any like scratching or string buzz or stuff like that. It's pretty quiet, but if you use a noise gate, you can keep things pretty quiet anyways. But I gotta say, for me personally, you really lose a lot of the bass sound. I mean, not the bass, like not that bass, like the feeling of the bass or the low end, but you lose a lot of the clarity and the brightness, which again, I don't like it too trebly, so I don't like super trebly, but I like it in between, and that's where I turn both humbuckers all the way on, turn the tones all the way up, and I play usually just before between the neck humbucker and the neck. I play right there. Sometimes I'll come back and play between the two humbuckers, but I like a very mid, not too trebly, not super bassy, just like a mid range, like a standard bass sound. I don't, like I said, it doesn't need to be super trebly, doesn't need to be so, you know, just no treble whatsoever like he plays. I understand what he's doing with it. I mean, I can appreciate what his contribution to it, and he's, you know, they've got him at #1. But yeah, I don't know. And we used to own a bunch of Motown 45s. I used to listen to those a lot when I was, especially right around like '79, when I was listening to Kiss. I listened to Kiss and Motown. You know, I've heard a lot of these songs and stuff, but you know, I can appreciate his contribution. I can appreciate his playing and all that stuff. You know, also a virtuoso. But I'm not going to say like I'm a James Jamerson fan. I mean, he's not the guy that you know, I idolize to be. So, all right. So we kicked through that list. Oh, man, we're at hour 5. I didn't think we were going to make it through this. Okay, all I wanted to show you guys real quick was just the Bass Player magazine. I'm just going to go really fast. They've also got James Jamerson as #1. Jaco Pastorius is #2. Paul McCartney #3. Larry Graham #4. Stanley Clarke. Ron Carter. John Entwistle. Anthony Jackson. Ray Brown. Marcus Miller. Jack Bruce. Charles Mingus. Geddy Lee, they put at 13, which that's actually Alex Lifeson. But Geddy Lee, I think the other list, didn't they put him at like, he was higher than 13 for Rolling Stone, because there's 13. Yeah, they had M after Chris Squire too. 24, yeah, so Rolling Stone's not a big fan of prog rock, I know that for certain. Bass Player puts him at number 13. Victor Wooten, that guy, this guy, don't know who these people are. Bootsy Collins, they kind of put him pretty far down the list. Oh, John Petitucci or whatever, Petitucci, he was another guy who was always in Black Belt magazine, always in Bass Player magazine. Bass Player Black Belt magazine. Learn to play the bass and be a ninja. John Paul Jones. Oh, they put John Paul Jones way down the list. Carol Kay, they put way down the list. There's Chris Squire. Chris Squire is... they put Geddy Lee over Chris Squire, as opposed to the other one put Chris Squire over Geddy Lee. That's interesting. That's really all I want to know. I just want to know where Geddy Lee and... oh, Billy Sheehan. Billy Sheehan wasn't even on the other list. Billy Sheehan's a big... he was a guy from the 90s. Like I said, I'm running out of time, so there's a lot of guys to go into. I can't go into everybody. But there's Will Lee from the world's most dangerous band, David Letterman. Les Claypool, blah, 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 blah. I just want to show you these real quick. One thing was, so there was a videotape that was in Bass Player magazine. In the back of the magazine, they have these videotapes, and they have these masterclass videotapes. A lot of Jaco Pastorius, stuff like that. That Petitucci guy. You could order these videos. These videos are like $50 on VHS back then. Expensive. I didn't order any of them. However, they had a Chris Squire one. It was called Masterclass Chris Squire. And I was going to order it at some point, and I never got around to it. It's too expensive, I thought. And I went on a vacation in 1992 to Florida with some buddies. We were also in a band, and we went down there and went to Disney World and did all that stuff, Universal Studios. And we wanted to go to the headquarters of Sweetwater. Sweetwater is technically in Tampa. It's near Clearwater. But they're always talking about Sweetwater music. It's like, let's go to their headquarters, their flagship store. It's down in Tampa. And so it was a rainy day. One day we went to this giant, and I thought Guitar Center had a lot of stuff, but man, this Sweetwater, I mean, they had it's like the size of like a Lowe's or a Best Buy. And they had like the whole back wall was just drum kits. You could just see them all stacked up, just the drums stacked up for each kit. And I was up near the front, and they had all like the videos and stuff like that, and like the books, sheet music, and they had this video. And I was like, how much is it? And they said, it's $49.99. Well, I was on vacation, so I was on a budget. I was on a vacation budget. We had already gone to Disney World, and we already blew a shit ton of money way too fast. And this is toward the end of the vacation, and I didn't have a lot of money left. and I wasn't going to spend all of my food money on this videotape, but I wanted it. Fast forward to 2023. Actually, I saw this earlier in 2023, but there you go. Just look it up on YouTube. See what kids don't have to deal with today, or just people in general. Back then, everything was hard. And I don't want to sound like an old geezer. Oh, I had to walk up to school 6 ways and sideways through snow and lava. You know, but the thing is, it was generally hard to do this stuff back then. You know, and if you wanted to see this videotape, and it's like, what is he really going to show you, right? Although he does show you some cool stuff in this video. He's also very creepy in this video, too. He's a very creepy guy. He's very weird. I find Chris Squire to be a very weird person. He comes off cringy sometimes, like, ooh, he's creeping me out. He creeps me out a couple times in this video. I mean, not as much as Wolf dipshit over here. That's not Wolf Marshall. This other douchebag over here with this crazy 80s. It was filmed in the 80s, too, because that's right around Big Generator time. And there's this, his signature Chris Squire Rickenbacker, which he's actually talking about the copies that they made, the series, which I thought was newer, but no, I guess even back in the 80s they were making copies of his bass. But anyways, it's a great video. Watch it. If you want to see stuff on Chris Squire, go watch Chris Squire Masterclass on YouTube. I'm not going to play any of it, but yeah, so I just wanted to show you that, and I also wanted to show you this. So this is Rush, the Presto Tour, 1990, live from Auburn Hills, the Palace of Auburn Hills. I was at this show in high school. This would have been early, so this would have been right out of second semester, so during the winter of maybe almost spring, winter between late winter in 11th grade, when I was a junior in high school at Rochester High School. Me and Jeff Lilly and his friend Ned all went to this concert. I remember House of Lords opened up for them, and they got booed off stage because Rush fans want to see Rush, and they don't want to see anybody else. Even when Primus played, like I said, there was I saw them at the Palace during the Roll of and I think I have that bookmarked up here too. They're also, yeah, right here. Roll the Bones at the Palace of Auburn Hills. And, yep, that's right, 1994. And this, I was there, and Primus opened up for him there. But, yeah, I loved that album, and it came, like I said, it was right at a sweet spot. And I really idolized Geddy Lee at this time. I mean, I still kind of do, but I mean, I really idolized him at this point. And this was that concert I went to, and like I said, it's just funny. I watched the entire, and they've remastered it to 60 frames per second. So if you want to watch this, go on there, look up Rush Live Auburn Hills 1990 2021 HD remaster of the Presto Tour, and you can watch the entire concert that I was at. And you could see the whole thing. So every time now it's like, it's funny, I was watching it, I'm like, when I remember telling people about the concert, and I realized how much I embellished the story, because I'm like, I remember like this laser light show and things happening that clearly you can see in this video did not happen, but I must have imagined it. Like, I thought, like, during Marathon, I was telling everybody at high school, oh yeah, and like this laser light runner guy, like, runs off the stage and runs off across the heads of everybody on the main floor. That never happened. I watched this video, that never happened. It shows that runner guy, and he's like a laser light thing, and he's kind of like hovering like over the screen behind the drum set, and that was it. So unless the video didn't pick shit up, but that's almost like a hologram. And I remember people looking at me too when I was telling the story, like, going, "This guy crazy? How could they can't do stuff like that?" So it's just funny. All the things that I just imagined in my head while I was at this concert, I watched this on video, and I'm like, going, some of it did happen. You know, some of the things, I remember the drum solo went on forever, Neil Peart's drum solo. But there's the video. So if you guys want to enjoy a nice HD version of a concert that I was at, not that that matters, but I'm just saying, you know, when I was a junior in high school, so if you want to get a feel for what the time period was when I was a junior in high school, I'm 50 years old now, so it tells you how long, this is 1990, this is a while ago this was. Watch this video, and again, you can watch This one I don't think is an HD. It's crap version of it, but you can watch the this is after I graduated high school. Obviously at 94 because I graduated in 91. This is the Roll of Bones tour, which I was at that concert as well. Sorry, I was just, like I said, I was just looking up. That's when I looked it up. I was just curious to see the date. But yeah, so that was March. Yep, that makes sense. March 8th, Presto Tour. I said I was there. Remember it like it was yesterday. Except for not all the details, because I thought that the marathon guy ran across everybody's head. So yeah, just last thing I want to leave you on here, because I've gone pretty far, is this is not the footage from that concert. They don't have footage from that specific concert, but yes, in 1991, my graduating year, I went and saw Yes for the Union tour, which everybody knows. They had the stage in the round, and that was at the Palace of Auburn Hills, same place, except for it was right in the middle, because the stage in the round. And there's Chris Squire doing his Chris Squire creepy guitar solo, his Whitefish thing, which he just acts, he's so weird. But anyways, you can watch at least that's the concert tour I saw, but this isn't the actual concert. But it looked the same. I mean, they had the stage on. He wore the same jacket. That's that jacket he had back in that other video from the 70s. Clearly, he doesn't fit into the pants anymore. You know, or then, because, you know, even that was a while ago. He's passed away now. He died early, too. But, anyways, there he is doing this Chris Squire thing. So, if you want to see that, so I just wanted to get that stuff in before I go here, because it's way over now. But, so I'll leave you guys on that. And, again, eventually I'm going to, like I said, I got to get it for my son. I got to get his interface, and I'll hook up my bass through the Zoom, and I'll put it into the USB. I'll put it into the computer, and that way, I can bring it up while we're doing I'm doing the recording, and I can play you some bass, and you can actually hear it, and actually hear what the sounds like. You know, bear with me, because I haven't, you know, outside of my son and a few other people, I haven't really played live in front of people that often. I get kind of nervous, just because I'm better now than I ever have been in my life, but at the same time I just get a little too excited, I don't know, or whatever, get some stage fright, so, you know, bear with that. Again, I don't plan on being a pro or playing in a live band. I'm 50 years old, I'm not going to be a rock star, so all of my bass playing is all hobby stuff, which, you know, that's what these videos are about my hobbies and things that I like and blah, 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 blah. And just giving I'm not trying to be a narcissist here. I don't say, oh, you gotta, you know, I'm just trying to give people in these videos what I like and my experience with things. And, you know, you can either take it as entertainment, or you could take maybe some nuggets of information here and there, you know, something you could be useful, you know, or maybe you just want to hear me just bitch and complain about everything. Some people like that too. Do that as well. But, alright, so I will let you go. I'm going to record a couple of videos over the weekend, and probably not do the Ghost album, the other album, the prequel album, until I get the t-shirt so I can look cool in the video, because I'm weird like that. But anyways, alright, I will catch you guys later. Thanks for watching. Thanks for going so long too. I'm trying not to make any 2-hour videos, but we're already pushing an hour and 18 minutes, so let's stop it here. Alright, talk to you then. Bye-bye.